Hello and welcome. As we all know, Doom Eternal is a fantastic game. For some people, it is a game of the decade because of its incredible, raw and visceral combat mechanics. Couple that with the overall positive design philosophy of the developers. But no game is perfect. No game rules forever. That is why in this video, I'll be presenting an exhaustive list of things that I feel Doom Eternal needs in order to improve. They range from visual, graphical changes to upgrading certain mechanics which will, based on my experience, will improve the experience for the new and old players. So without further delay, let's get into it. Now the first thing they can do to improve the game is to separate the keybind between frag grenades and ice bomb. Currently the way that it works is that you have one keybind in order to switch between the two, and the other one is to actually use the equipment. And I can't help but find it to be very unintuitive and very clunky, because you already have two equipment and you're already using two keybinds. So what's the point of having it in such a way where you have to switch between the two and then have your other keybind in order to use it? The way it should work is that one keybind is for frag grenade, the other one is for the ice bomb. I've had some people say that this might be a bit overpowered, but I don't think it will. It will really just streamline the combat mechanics of the game even further. This system worked in Doom 2016 because instead of two equipment, you had three. You had the siphon grenade, the hologram, and your normal frag grenade. So having two keybinds for three equipment is fair enough. But for having two keybinds for two equipment doesn't really seem to make any sense. And it seems to me that this is a bit of an oversight from the console mechanic, because on console you already have one controller, so you're using both hands in order to do all of your movement, all of your abilities and anything in between. Whereas on PC you're using both of your hands independent of each other. And having these sort of keybinds or these sort of mechanics where you have to do unnecessary number of clicks or button presses, it causes more problems than it solves. So I think that by separating the two keybinds, it will definitely improve the experience on PC. Now, while we are on the topic of frag grenades and ice bombs, I think it would be a very good change in order to allow the player to switch between the two if they decide to keep the existing system while you are within a chainsaw, a glory kill, or a berserk kill animation. If you've played the Ancient Gods Part 1, then you already know that there's a lot more aggressive demons in the DLC. For example, there's a lot more Hell Knights and definitely a lot more Barons. Additionally, there's also a lot more buff totems compared to the base game, and when you have aggressive enemies that are buffed, which means they're able to move a lot faster, it can take literally a second before you are overwhelmed and surrounded by demons. So in order to be able to switch between the two and use it as soon as you get out of the animation would be a massive improvement, and would also help people going for more difficult content. But at the end of the day, I would still prefer that they separate the keybinds between the two and allow the player to use whichever equipment based on their keybinds. And I feel that would be the best case scenario for whichever situation that you may find yourself in. Now the next improvement that they could possibly do is something that's a bit minor, but I feel that it will have a lot more positive feedback if they do this. And that's to be able to view your arsenal, your suit upgrades, your weapon mods, and finally all the codex entries that you've unlocked, all from the main menu. Currently, if you wish to view all these things, you have to load into the game and load into a save to be able to view all these things. And the most annoying part of this is when you go to play the DLC, and more than likely when you go to play DLC number 2, you would have to load up and first of all change all of your runes, all of your weapon mods, and then you can start playing. I feel this small change will make a massive quality of life improvement for everyone that plays this game. And for people that play through the DLC or through the base campaign multiple times, having a centralized location where you can set all your runes and all your weapon mods and then just start playing will be a great benefit to everyone. Now, in the off chance that a speedrunner is trying to go for 100% Ultra Nightmare completion, having all of the codex entries available to you within the menu would be a great benefit, because it means that you don't have to go within the game in order to validate that you've gotten all the codex entries. And for some people that have multiple different save slots, you can go into a save slot and then have a look at which codex entries you've unlocked within each different save slot. Now, for the next thing that they can add in order to improve Doom Eternal is something from Doom 2016, and that is the arcade mode. I recently went back and played Doom 2016 and I experienced arcade mode for myself. And I have to say, that mode would be absolutely perfect for Doom Eternal. Because in Doom 2016, you can load up a level in arcade mode, and you have all of the weapons that you would normally have within the level fully upgraded. You also have all of your runes and all of your Praetor suit unlocks ready to go. So all you're basically doing is playing through the level at the best possible way, or with the best possible upgrades, and your entire goal during that mission is to accumulate as many points as you can. And you can do this by doing as many glory kills, as many stylish kills, like for example getting a direct headshot while being in air that will award you with a headshot and also a death from above point. There's just a lot of variety, and I feel that with the combat mechanics and the movement mechanics within Doom Eternal, arcade mode would be absolutely perfect addition to this game. And it will also be a good way for players in order to judge the way that they play this game by comparing their points upon the leaderboard. And with subsequent playthroughs, they can then practice and learn new ways and new things in order to improve their score, which at the end of the day would mean that they become a better Doom player. Now, the next thing they can do to improve Doom Eternal is something that I covered in my previous video, and that is where I was defending the platforming within Doom Eternal and providing something that they could do in order to improve the platforming sections. And that is to further incentivize people to get 100% completion of a level. By doing so, they can then introduce small teleporters which will teleport you from one side of the platforming area to the end of the platforming area, basically allowing you to skip it entirely. So if you're someone that's played this game probably 100,000 times by now, having to go through those boring platforming sections is frankly a bit of a waste of time. And I think that if id Software actually implements this, it'd be a good way to respect the player's time, as well as allowing the player to remain within the fun zone for longer. And the thing is, people in the community that have created master level mods have already implemented these small teleporters, allowing the players to skip the platforming sections entirely. And based on the feedback that I have seen upon those master levels, it has actually been very well received. So I think it'd be a good idea for id Software to take an idea from the community and implement it into their game now and in the future. Now, the next thing that they can do to improve Doom Eternal has been asked for since the very beginning of this game, and that is to improve upon the event system that currently exists. The way it works right now is based off of a FOMO mindset. FOMO stands for fear of missing out, where you have a limited time frame in order to do certain activities or play the game in order to unlock those rewards. Once those rewards are gone, well, too bad, you missed out. And I think this is a very bad use and overall a very negative mindset that gaming has adopted in recent history. So many other games right now implement this FOMO mentality that it actually takes people away from your game, because once they are unable to acquire the reward, or whether they're too late, then at that point they think to themselves, what's the point? Why should I even bother spending time playing this game when I can play another game which allows me to get the rewards that I need or that I want? And one good example of this system is in Halo Master Chief Collection, where if you've started playing the game very recently, like I have, every single event that has ever been introduced to the game is available to the player. And all you have to do is to do your weekly PvP or weekly PvE challenges, and by doing those challenges you unlock season points. And you can use those points in order to progress through a season that has already gone through or something that is currently active right now. This is a system that gives full freedom to the player and allows them to play on their time whenever they want, and allowing them to unlock the rewards at their own pace. Whereas the system in Doom Eternal is you're basically playing at the game's time, not on your own, which overall is a very bad psychological mentality. And I hope that in the future they bring back these events and make them permanent, so that if someone was to buy the game 1 year from now, they can then still unlock all the rewards within the game by simply playing the game. Now the next thing that I have is to introduce more or better rune options. If you've played the first DLC, you'll know how lackluster the rune options are. There's only 3 support runes, and only one of them is viable for all difficulty options. So the first one is Concussive Blast, which is the most widely used and most widely accepted rune, and it's the one that provides you with the best return for your gameplay. The other one is an Extra Life rune, where if an enemy takes your life or your extra life, you have a few seconds to kill it and regain that extra life. But unfortunately that does not work in Ultra Nightmare. So therefore in Ultra Nightmare now you only have 2 out of 3 runes that are useful or can even be used at all. The third and final rune is the one that buffs up your Blood Punch, but only when you are below 75 HP. And if you've played on Nightmare or Ultra Nightmare difficulty, being at 75 HP or lower is pretty much death, because most abilities in the game at such a difficulty level actually do around 70 or more than 70 damage. So if you do get hit at that point, that's it, you've pretty much lost your run. There's only a very select few locations where you can make use of the buffed Blood Punch, but in 99% of the game or 99% of the DLC, you're only really stuck with one rune that works. So I hope that in the next DLC and in the future games, they introduced runes that help you in any and all difficulties. Now speaking of difficulty, this will lead me into the next thing that they can do in order to improve Doom Eternal, and that is to introduce modifiers. Now what do I mean by modifiers? Well, these are things that are completely optional and something that the players can do in order to spice up their gameplay. So let me give you a few examples. In one of the videos I released previously, I talked about the fog mechanic in the blood swamps and how incredible it actually is and how useful it is in order to be a better player. Now they can create a modifier which adds the fog in every single level of the game, and in return you get maybe a 10% or maybe a 25% movement speed increase. So that way you may not see that well, but you're still able to move a lot faster and react to damage that you weren't really expecting. Another possible modifier that they can add is based off of a mod by Prote, and it's called the Randomizer Mod. What it does is it basically changes or randomizes every single demon in every single part of the game. Now in the case of id Software, they would have to balance it in order to cater to the vast majority of players. And it's pretty simple how they can implement this same mechanic. If you look at the first arena in Exaltia, you have a few fodder demons like 3 or 4 soldiers, 2 or 3 imps, and a couple of gargoyles. And you also have 1 Hell Knight and 1 Cacodemon that spawns. What they can do is to keep the same number of fodder and the same number of heavy demons, and all they need to do is to randomize which heavy demons spawn and which fodders spawn. So a good example of this would be that in that same arena, instead of a Hell Knight and a Cacodemon, it could be a Pain Elemental and a Dread Knight, or it could be a Whiplash and potentially maybe even a Hell Knight. And when it comes to the fodder, they can pick any fodder enemy from the list. These are just some examples that I've given, and surely the community can come up with far better modifiers that can really help spice up this game and really give it new life and increase the replayability of this game. So if you have any good ideas, make sure to let me know in the comments below. Now the next thing they can do in order to improve upon Doom Eternal's existing system is to rework the power-up mechanic, specifically the Berserk mechanic. Currently Berserk is very polarizing within the community. Some people like it, some people don't like it because it's the same animations replayed over and over. And when you have the Berserk buff, you're pretty much invincible at that point, so there's no point in you being in that animation over and over. And I think a solution does exist. In all previous Doom games, everything before Doom 2016, once you have acquired the Berserk buff, it buffs up your melee attacks significantly, allowing you to basically one-punch every demon within the game. The way it works in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal is that you are put into a small animation where you effectively destroy the demon. And after a few times, it does get a bit annoying. So I think they can implement a system by introducing it or merging it with the Blood Punch animation. And all you simply have to do is to pick up the Berserk power-up, go next to a demon or close to a demon, and just basically aim and punch. That's it. You're not put into any animation, you don't have to sit through, continuously seeing the same animations over and over. You're simply destroying hordes of demons over and over until the buff runs out. Now speaking of the Berserk buff, there's another mechanic or feature that exists within the game that has or had a lot of potential, but it was barely used within the game. And that is the Repertorium. I think it's safe to say that for most people that knew about the Repertorium, or the people that saw it, they expected that this would be something that you can come back to over and over and select which demons you would like to spawn and basically practice against them. It would effectively function as a sort of a simulation where you get to decide which demons are available, all the modifiers you want to add, for example, how much health they drop, how much armor they drop, or if you want to add or remove any sort of pickups from within that small arena. But unfortunately, this was never really used within the game. It was only ever used with one mission of the game very early on, but then after that, it doesn't really serve any other function. Another game that actually used this sort of similar mechanic was God of War 2, where you could actually enter an arena and set how many demons spawn, how many enemies spawn, and what types of enemies they spawn. And you can also set a timer for how long that arena goes for. This would allow you to practice fighting against ogres or massive hordes of enemies for as long as you want. Now the next thing that I have is something that I feel is very important for the future of the franchise, and that is demons and their variety. Currently, almost every single demon that exists within the game has a melee attack, but also a ranged attack. There's only 1 or 2 demons that don't have a ranged attack, like the Hell Knights, the Pinkies, and most of the fodder demons. And I feel that not every single demon needs to have a ranged attack, because it basically makes certain demons repetitive or redundant. If you take the example of the Imp, the Gargoyle, and the Prowlers, they're pretty much exactly the same in the way that they function. They all teleport or move around the arena really fast, they all climb walls, and they all have a ranged attack which does quite a lot of damage. I feel what they should have done is to keep the Imps as a ranged only demon, the Gargoyle as a melee demon, and the Prowler should have remained as a flanking demon, where you don't really see where it is until it teleports behind you or somewhere close to you by providing you with some sort of audio cue in order for you to dodge that attack. Now for the last segment, I'm going to include suggestions from my very community. So if you would like to be part of this community and also help out with the making of the videos, then make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I like to ask my community on certain opinions or suggestions on what they can do in order to improve Doom or any other game. Now before I end this video, I'm just going to leave up a few other suggestions by the community, because I don't want to extend this video any further. So if you want to read through it, go ahead and pause the video and read through it at your own pace. Anyways, that's all I have for this long ass video. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because all of these actions help my channel through the YouTube algorithm. And if you have any other good suggestion of your own, make sure to comment down below, and I'll add your suggestion onto the pinned comment, so that if someday id Software stumbles across this video, they will have a centralized location where all of the feedback from the community is located, and they can use all of this feedback in order to hopefully improve the game as it is now and for any future Doom games. Also, I also have a Twitch channel as well, where I've been streaming for the past week or so, and I've been having a very good time. So I would recommend that you follow me on Twitch as well, and make sure to introduce yourself, and yeah, let's have a chat while we enjoy playing some video games and going through some other older video games that people don't play that often these days. The link to my Twitch channel is in the description and in the pinned comment below. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.